Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a mini unhaul for the end of the year because I have just a handful more books that I'm going to be removing from my shelves, both physical and virtual. I feel like I've done a pretty good job this year of scouring my shelves and really narrowing them down to just things I genuinely want to read. And these are just kind of the last handful of things that have been holding on that I have now come to terms with the fact that I either didn't like them or I'm not going to read them. So I have just 4 physical books, and you'll have seen a lot of these recently, I think, in other videos. So the first physical book is The Decan House Murders. I read this recently and didn't enjoy it, so this is going to be going. And then the other 3 here were all on my self-destructing books TBR, and I did a vlog recently trying to finish off that particular list, and all of these were ones that I started and pretty quickly realized were just not going to be for me. I was not having a good time with them. So we have This Golden Flame by Emily Victoria, The Salt Line by Holly Goddard Jones, and A Shadow All of Light by Fred Chappell. So those ones were just not working for me, and I'm going to go ahead and donate them to my local bookstore so that they will hopefully end up in the hands of some other readers who will appreciate them. So that's all the physical books leaving my library, and then I also have 6 ebooks I'm planning to delete, by which I mean I actually have already deleted them. I was making a list as I went along to make sure I remembered to go back and delete them out of my Kindle. I did this earlier in the year as well. I did actually a video looking at my Kindle library and kind of evaluating each book, and everything I'm removing at this point in the year was something that was on thin ice the first time I did this. So I just kind of circled back around to it, reevaluated those last few things, and decided that yes, they actually could go. So the first 2 of those were Neverwhere and American Gods, both by Neil Gaiman. These ones I bought like ages ago because I went through this phase, I think in high school. Neil Gaiman was very popular and I really wanted to like his work. It was actually, I think, through college as well, but I was really interested in liking his work because so much of it was really popular, and this was also, I think, shortly before the Good Omens TV show came out. So I wanted to get into his work, and I managed to read a couple of his books and realized that for both of them I just kind of liked them okay. They were fine, but I didn't really enjoy them that much, and I ended up removing both of those from my library. I think that was the Ocean at the End of the Lane and Norse Mythology. And then I still had Neverwhere and American Gods on my Kindle, and I just never got around to reading them because I kept wanting to like Gaiman and didn't. And then since then we've learned about the allegations against him, and I really have come to terms with the fact that I'm just not interested in picking up anything else by him. And then the next set of books that are going were from Amazon Prime First Reads. This, if you're not familiar, is like a thing where if you have Amazon Prime, you get like a free book every month, and there's like a selection to choose from. And I was really interested in those when I was first starting my booktube channel, and I would get one like without fail every single month. I would download one of them, and I don't think I ever read a single one of those Prime First Read books. I just gathered a bunch of them and I never picked them up. There are a couple of those that I have since decided, yes, I really am interested in them and I am planning to read them at some point. It was just like 2 or 3 though of a much larger set that I had downloaded. And then these 2 were the ones that had made it through the previous audit. So these are Hunt Them Down by Simon Gervais, I think, and Rain Will Come by Thomas Holgate. I think they're both some variation of a detective or spy thriller, and these ones I genuinely could not remember what the descriptions were. I couldn't remember what they were about, and I looked up the descriptions a couple of days ago when I was going through my library and deleting them, and now it's been a couple of days and I have once again forgotten entirely what those books were about. So that makes it really clear to me that I was not that interested in reading them. So these last 2 are Obsidian Island by Arden Powell and The Guinevere Deception by Kirsten White. For Obsidian Island, I used to be a big fan of Arden Powell's. I was reading this series that they had of like short romances. They were all like fantasy romances, and I'd really been enjoying those. And then I ended up reading The Bayou and The Solstice Cabin kind of back to back, and I really didn't like either of them, and I really found some of the representation in them poorly handled. Some of their topics were poorly handled, and I just had a really bad time with both of those, which was kind of devastating for me at that point. But I had pre-ordered Obsidian Island and kept thinking, okay, well, I'll give that a try at least because I have liked previous books from this author. but I found that I think my experiences with the Bayou and with the Solstice Cabin just left enough of a bad taste in my mouth that I was not interested in going back. So even though Obsidian Island sounds really fun, it's like a horror fantasy romance set on like a tropical island. It sounds fun, but I just don't think I have any more interest in reading more from Arden Powell. The Guinevere Deception was a little bit different. I read and enjoyed a book from Kirsten White, but I didn't find it that memorable. Like, it was fine. I had an arc for Mr. Magic and read it, and it was a perfectly fine horror book, but it just didn't really stick with me. I didn't think the characters were really that distinctive. I also felt like the ending was questionable because I felt like it fell into the exact formula that the main character kept saying was like the wrong way to handle the situation, but it wasn't treated as like she opted for the thing that she had been against the whole time because that was her only choice. It was treated more like because it was her doing it, it was fine, and I just didn't really care for that. So I never got around to reading Guinevere Deception, and on top of that, when I bought it when it was on sale one time for $1, and for some reason it didn't charge properly to my card, so I'd had to like contact Amazon about it, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll fix it. And their idea of fixing it was that they just put the book on my Kindle for free and then didn't bother to charge me that $1 for it. And so I always kind of felt bad about that, and I was like, you know what, if I'm buying her book, she deserves to get the money for it. So I kind of subconsciously didn't want to read it for that reason, and I finally got up the courage to go ahead and delete it off of my library. So yeah, this was just a case of I didn't really care for the characters in the previous one, and I know also that it's the Guinevere Deception is YA fantasy, and the one that I'd read from her before was a adult horror, and I just know that like I am not the target audience for YA fantasy, and I have tried a few different YA fantasy series before that have just not worked for me. I think there's like one that I've ended up liking, so I am kind of slowly purging YA fantasy off of my shelves as well, kind of in general. So those are all the books that are leaving my library here at the end of the year, and I'm feeling good about this decision. It's not like a huge number, it doesn't make a huge dent in my TBR at all, but it's the last few things that I felt like I had been holding on to for some reason other than I feel like I really want to read them. So it was time to let them go, and now I do feel like my shelves are at a point where everything on them I really want to read. I've also just noticed my iPad has been in frame this whole time, so sorry about that. But yeah, I think my shelves have reached a point where I really want to read everything on them, and I'm excited about everything on them, and I'm looking forward to the efforts I'm going to go to in 2025 to really read down my TBR and read hopefully as many as I possibly can off of these shelves and off my virtual shelves as well. So I feel like this has been a move in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to the new year. I think that's all I have for you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.